There was a time in America when the days seemed to move more slowly, before the glow of television filled living rooms, before smartphones and computers connected people to the entire world, and before every moment of silence had to be filled with noise. There were long evenings when families simply sat together and listened to the wind outside. It was a different America, an America of small towns, wooden porches, quiet country roads, steam trains, corner stores, and distant church bells. The year was somewhere between the 1920s and 1930s, and across the country, life followed a rhythm that was simple, familiar, and unhurried. In the early morning, the sun rose over fields covered with dew, while thin smoke drifted slowly from chimneys. Farmers opened the doors of their barns, shopkeepers unlocked the doors of their stores, and somewhere in the distance, a train whistle announced that another day had begun. In a small town surrounded by green hills and open farmland, morning arrived quietly. The town had only a few thousand residents, and most people knew one another by name. There was a main street running through the center of town, lined with wooden buildings that had stood there for decades. A general store sat beside a small bakery, and across the road was a barber shop with a red and white striped pole turning slowly outside its window. At the end of the street stood a brick church with a tall bell tower that could be seen from nearly every part of town. On summer mornings, the streets were almost empty. A few automobiles moved slowly along the road, but horses and wagons could still be seen carrying supplies from the farms beyond the town. The sound of hooves against the pavement echoed between the buildings, and sometimes the only other sound was the soft ringing of a bicycle bell. At the general store, the owner would arrive early every morning. He would unlock the front door, sweep the wooden floor, and open the shutters that covered the windows during the night. Inside, the store smelled of coffee, flour, leather, and fresh bread. Shelves were filled with everything a family might need, from canned vegetables and sugar to candles, soap, and jars of candy. Near the counter stood a large wooden barrel filled with pickles, and beside it was a glass container holding colorful sweets that children loved. The owner knew which families preferred which brands of coffee, which farmers needed new tools, and which children had saved their pennies for a piece of candy. Nothing had to be written down. In those days, people often remembered things simply because they had known each other for so long. By mid-morning, the town began to come alive. Women walked along the sidewalks carrying baskets, children hurried toward school, and men gathered outside the hardware store to talk about the weather and the crops. There was always something to discuss. Someone's barn needed repairing. A farmer's horse had wandered away. A new family had arrived from another state. A train had been delayed because of heavy rain. These small events became the news of the day. There were no endless streams of information arriving from distant places. If something important happened in another city, people might hear about it that evening on the radio, or perhaps read about it in the newspaper the next morning. Most of the time, however, the concerns of the day remained close to home. The local newspaper arrived every afternoon on the train. The sound of the locomotive could be heard long before it reached the station. Children sometimes ran toward the tracks just to watch it pass, while adults waited patiently for the mail and newspapers to be unloaded. The station itself was a small wooden building with a covered platform and a large clock hanging above the entrance. Travelers came and went, carrying leather suitcases and wearing heavy coats. Some were heading to distant cities they had never seen before. Others were returning home after long journeys. The station was one of the few places where the small town felt connected to the enormous country beyond it. When the train finally disappeared into the distance, the town became quiet again. The sound of the engine faded slowly until nothing remained but the wind moving through the trees. A man might sit on a bench outside the station for a few minutes, watching the empty tracks. Perhaps he was waiting for someone. Perhaps he was simply thinking. There was no hurry to leave. In a world without constant notifications and appointments filling every hour, people sometimes had time to sit and do nothing at all. Afternoons were often warm and slow. In the countryside, farmers worked beneath the sun while their families prepared meals at home. Laundry moved gently on clotheslines in the breeze. Children played beside creeks, climbed trees, or gathered in open fields. Their games required little more than imagination. A wooden stick could become a sword. An old box could become a wagon. A quiet field could become an entire world. When evening approached, mothers called their children home from the porch, and one by one, the children disappeared through the doors of their houses. As the sun began to fall, the town changed once again. The streets became golden beneath the evening light. Long shadows stretched across the sidewalks. The bakery closed its doors, the barber turned off his lights, and the general store owner began counting the day's money. Somewhere, a screen door slammed shut. Somewhere else, a dog barked once and then became silent. The smell of dinner drifted from open kitchen windows. Fried chicken, fresh bread, potatoes, beans, and warm apple pie were common meals in many homes. Families gathered around wooden tables, and for a little while, the outside world seemed very far away. After dinner, people often sat on their front porches. Wooden rocking chairs moved gently back and forth. Neighbors stopped by to talk. Someone might bring a newspaper, while someone else might carry a jar of homemade jam. Conversations lasted longer because there was nowhere else people needed to be. They talked about the weather, their children, the harvest, the upcoming church picnic, and the possibility of rain. Sometimes they talked about the future. America was changing rapidly during these years, and people could feel it. Cities were growing. New machines were appearing. Cars were becoming more common. Radio programs were bringing music and voices from distant places into homes across the country. Yet in this small town, the old way of life remained. After sunset, the sky became wonderfully dark. Without the bright lights of modern cities, thousands of stars could be seen above the rooftops. Children sometimes lay on blankets in the grass and looked upward, trying to count them. Adults stood quietly on their porches, listening to the night. Crickets sang from the fields. An owl called from somewhere beyond the trees. The distant sound of a train traveled across the darkness, growing louder for a few moments before slowly disappearing again. Perhaps the most remarkable thing about those evenings was the silence. It was not an empty silence. It was filled with small sounds: the ticking of clocks, the rustling of leaves, the creaking of wooden floors, the distant bark of a dog, and the gentle movement of the wind. People were accustomed to this quiet. They did not feel the need to escape it. They simply lived within it. And when the last lights in the houses went dark, the town settled into sleep. The streets became empty. The shops stood closed behind their wooden doors. The church bell tower disappeared into the darkness. Somewhere, a train continued its journey through the night, carrying mail, newspapers, and travelers toward distant places. But here, in this quiet corner of America, everything remained still. Tomorrow would bring another morning. The sun would rise again over the fields. The general store would open. The bakery would begin preparing fresh bread. The train would arrive at the station. Children would walk to school. Farmers would return to their work. Life would continue just as it had the day before. It was not a perfect time. People faced hardships, economic struggles, difficult winters, and uncertain futures. Yet there was something unforgettable about the rhythm of those days. Life was slower, closer to home, and often more connected to the seasons. People knew their neighbors. They recognized familiar faces on the street. They waited for letters instead of instant messages. They traveled by train for days instead of flying across the country in hours. And when night came, they often had nothing more urgent to do than sit quietly beneath the stars. This was the America that existed before the modern world became so loud. An America of small towns and long roads, of old train stations and wooden porches, of general stores where the owner knew your name, of evenings when the radio played softly in the corner and families gathered together without looking at glowing screens. An America where a simple day could feel like a complete story in itself. And perhaps, if you listen carefully enough, you can still imagine it. The distant whistle of a train, the gentle creaking of a porch swing, the sound of footsteps fading down an empty sidewalk, a warm light glowing behind a kitchen window, the stars shining above a quiet American town. For a moment, you can imagine that you are there. It is late at night. The streets are empty. The stores are closed. The last train has already passed. and America is quiet. The morning comes quietly to the little town. There is no alarm ringing from every house, no traffic rushing through the streets, and no sudden noise announcing the beginning of another busy day. Instead, the darkness outside simply begins to fade. The black sky becomes deep blue, and then slowly turns gray above the rooftops. A thin mist rests over the fields beyond town, floating just above the grass like a soft blanket. Somewhere in the distance, a rooster calls from a farmhouse, and another answers from farther away. Soon, the first chimney begins to send a thin line of smoke into the cool morning air. Inside the houses, people begin to wake. A bedroom door opens quietly. Floorboards creak beneath tired footsteps. A stove is lit in the kitchen, and the smell of coffee begins to fill the room. It is another ordinary morning in America. On the edge of town, an old farmer named Samuel rises before sunrise. He has lived on the same piece of land for most of his life. His house is small, with white wooden walls and a front porch that faces east toward the fields. Every morning, Samuel follows almost exactly the same routine. He washes his face with cold water, puts on his work clothes, and walks into the kitchen where his wife has already begun preparing breakfast. They do not need to say much to one another. After so many years together, silence has become its own kind of conversation. Outside the window, the first light of morning touches the tops of the trees. Samuel looks toward the fields and studies the sky. He has learned over the years that the sky can tell a farmer many things. The color of the clouds, the direction of the wind, and the feeling in the air can sometimes tell him more than any newspaper. After breakfast, Samuel steps outside. The morning air is cool against his face. He walks slowly toward the barn, carrying an old metal lantern even though the sun is beginning to rise. The barn door opens with a long wooden creak. Inside, the horses move gently in their stalls, their breath visible in the cold air. Samuel speaks softly to them as he begins his morning work. He fills their feed, checks the water, and looks over the equipment that will be needed later in the day. Nothing about the work is fast. There is no reason for it to be. Each task is completed carefully, one after another, as it has been done for generations before him. Beyond the barn, the fields stretch toward the horizon. In the distance, another farmhouse stands beneath a group of tall trees. A thin column of smoke rises from its chimney. Samuel knows the family who lives there. He knows the father, the mother, and their children. He knows when they planted their crops and when their youngest son started school. In this part of America, people often knew the stories of their neighbors without ever needing to ask. A person's life was not hidden behind a screen or locked away in a private world. The community itself was part of everyday life. By 8 o'clock, the road leading into town begins to fill with people. Farmers arrive in old trucks and horse-drawn wagons. A few automobiles pass slowly, their engines sounding strangely loud in the quiet morning. The general store is already open. Its owner stands outside, sweeping dust from the wooden steps. He pauses whenever someone walks by, offering a friendly greeting. A man carrying a newspaper stops to exchange a few words. A woman carrying a basket asks about the price of flour. Two children stand near the window, staring at the jars of candy inside. They have been looking at those candies for several minutes, carefully deciding how to spend the few coins they have in their pockets. Inside the store, the morning newspaper lies open on the counter. The headlines speak of events happening far beyond the little town. There are stories about Washington, about the growing cities, about new inventions and changes in the country. But most customers are more interested in the local news. They want to know whether rain is expected. They want to hear about the price of crops. They want to know who has a new baby, who is getting married, and whether the road beyond the river has finally been repaired. The larger world seems distant. The town has its own rhythm, and for most people, that rhythm is enough. At the far end of Main Street stands a small movie theater. It is one of the newest buildings in town, and people still talk about it as though it were something magical. The theater shows silent films several nights a week. There is no talking from the actors on the screen, only images moving across the white surface while music plays from a piano near the front. On Friday evenings, Families walk downtown to watch the latest picture. Children hold their parents' hands as they pass beneath the bright sign outside. For a few hours, the ordinary world disappears. Cowboys ride across deserts. Lovers meet in distant cities. Heroes escape from impossible situations. And when the film ends, everyone walks home beneath the stars, talking about what they have just seen. But on this particular morning, the theater is empty. The doors are locked, and the sign above the entrance is dark. A man is standing on a ladder, repairing one of the letters. He works slowly, occasionally stepping back to look at his progress. Across the street, a woman watches from the window of a small cafe. She is waiting for a customer who has promised to meet her there. The cafe smells of fresh coffee and warm bread. A few men sit at the counter, reading newspapers and discussing the morning's events. Their voices are low, almost blending with the quiet sound of dishes being placed on tables. Outside, a young boy walks along the sidewalk carrying a leather school bag. His name is Daniel, and he is 12 years old. He lives with his mother and younger sister in a small house near the edge of town. Every morning, he walks nearly a mile to school. Along the way, he passes the railroad tracks, the old church, and a large oak tree that has stood beside the road for longer than anyone can remember. Daniel always stops beneath the tree for a moment. He likes the way the branches move in the wind. He likes the sound of the leaves. Sometimes, if he is early, he sits on the low stone wall beside the tree and watches the road. Daniel dreams about traveling someday. He has never been farther than the next county, but he has heard stories about places he can hardly imagine. New York City, Chicago, California. He has seen photographs in magazines of tall buildings rising higher than anything in his town. He has read about trains that travel across the country and ships that cross the ocean. Sometimes he wonders what it would be like to leave the quiet streets behind and see the world beyond the horizon. Yet whenever he imagines himself far away, he also thinks about the sound of the church bell in his hometown, the smell of his mother's cooking, and the familiar road beneath the old oak tree. That morning, as Daniel stands beneath the branches, he hears something in the distance. At first, it is barely noticeable, a low vibration beneath his feet. Then comes a faint whistle. Daniel looks toward the railroad tracks. The sound grows louder. A train is approaching. He can see a thin cloud of smoke rising above the trees. The train appears slowly, its dark engine moving through the morning mist. Daniel watches as it passes. The wheels create a steady rhythm against the tracks, and the windows of the passenger cars reflect the morning sun. For a moment, he imagines himself sitting inside one of those cars, watching the town disappear behind him. Then the train is gone. The sound fades into the distance. Daniel remains beneath the oak tree for a few more seconds before continuing toward school. The day moves forward, and somewhere beyond the little town, the great American country continues to change. The schoolhouse stood on a gentle hill overlooking the town, its red brick walls warmed by the growing light of the morning sun. A small American flag fluttered quietly above the entrance, stirred by a soft breeze that carried the scent of fresh grass and distant farmland. Children arrived one by one, some walking with brothers and sisters, others laughing with friends they had known since they were old enough to remember. They placed their lunch pails beneath wooden hooks along the wall and took their seats at old wooden desks polished smooth by generations of students. The room was simple, with large windows that welcomed sunlight inside, a blackboard stretching across the front wall, and shelves filled with well-used books whose pages carried the fingerprints of many young readers before them. Daniel took his usual seat beside the window. From there, he could see the railroad tracks beyond the edge of town. Every now and then, he would glance outside, wondering where the trains were going and who might be traveling aboard them. His teacher, Mrs. Whitmore, noticed the thoughtful expression on his face but simply smiled. She understood that many children dreamed of distant places. Before opening the day's lessons, she asked each student to describe what they hoped to become when they grew older. Some wished to become doctors, others farmers like their fathers, while a few dreamed of becoming train engineers or pilots, inspired by the exciting new age of transportation that was slowly changing America. When the morning lessons ended, The children hurried outside for lunch beneath the shade of several large maple trees. Sandwiches wrapped in wax paper, fresh apples, homemade biscuits, and small jars of lemonade appeared from lunch baskets. There were no phones, no loud music, and no screens competing for attention. Instead, there were conversations, laughter, games of tag, and boys tossing a worn baseball across the schoolyard while girls skipped rope nearby. Even the smallest moments seemed to last a little longer, as though time itself moved at a gentler pace in this quiet corner of America. Across town, the blacksmith's shop echoed with the steady rhythm of hammer striking hot steel. Sparks leaped into the air each time the heavy hammer met the glowing metal resting upon the anvil. Farmers arrived throughout the afternoon with horses needing new shoes, broken wagon wheels, and tools worn dull by months of hard work. The blacksmith knew nearly every customer by name. While he worked, conversations drifted naturally from one subject to another. Weather, harvests, family news, and the latest stories arriving from the nearby cities. No one seemed eager to leave. People valued the chance to slow down and speak face to face. As afternoon sunlight stretched across Main Street, a traveling salesman arrived in town driving a dusty automobile loaded with suitcases. He parked beside the general store and tipped his hat politely to everyone he passed. The children watched him with curiosity, wondering what interesting things he might be carrying. Inside his cases were pocket watches, fountain pens, colorful fabrics, polished shoes, and small household inventions that many families had never seen before. For a few hours, the town felt connected to the wider world, as stories from distant states filled the air. Yet by sunset, the salesman would continue his journey, leaving behind only memories and a few newly purchased treasures. Late in the afternoon, long shadows reached across the streets as church bells rang softly through the town. Their familiar sound floated over rooftops, across gardens, and beyond the railroad tracks toward the surrounding farms. Shopkeepers began turning their signs to closed. Windows were carefully locked. Wooden shutters were pulled into place. The bakery sold its last warm loaf of bread, filling the evening air with a comforting aroma that lingered long after the doors had closed. Daniel walked home beneath a sky slowly changing from bright blue to soft shades of gold and orange. He carried a library book beneath his arm and stopped for a moment on the old railroad bridge overlooking the tracks. The rails reflected the setting sun like two narrow ribbons of light stretching toward the horizon. He wondered how many thousands of people had passed through this town without ever truly seeing it. Travelers looked through train windows for only a few moments before disappearing into the distance. But Daniel knew every tree, every porch, every dirt road, and every familiar face. To him, this little town was the entire world. As darkness slowly settled over the countryside, lights appeared one by one inside the houses. Families gathered around dinner tables, sharing stories from the day while fresh bread, roasted vegetables, and homemade pies filled the rooms with warmth. Outside, porch swings creaked gently in the cool evening breeze. Fireflies blinked above the grass, tiny golden lights dancing in the growing darkness. Somewhere far away, another train whistle echoed through the night. It was a lonely sound, yet somehow comforting, reminding everyone that although their town was peaceful and quiet, the great nation beyond continued moving forward, mile after mile, beneath the same endless sky. And as the stars slowly filled the heavens above, the little town became quiet once more, resting peacefully beneath the gentle glow of the moon, waiting patiently for another simple day to begin.